Everyone, one of the cool things about Savage Worlds is that you've got hindrances, which define interesting things about the character that some might call flaws, but they're really kind of cool. And I want to talk about some hindrances today and some that I like. Everyone, it's Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. We'd love your support. We'd love you to leave a comment, do all that good stuff. Send us an email, whatever. It'd be a lot of fun. So what do I want to talk about today? What I want to talk about today is hindrances and some interesting ones. Talk a little bit about them in general. I've done this before, but I thought I'd repeat it with some of my more interesting ones that I like. So let's start off by why you even want hindrances. Well, first, it gives your character a personality. It really defines sort of some characteristics, some negative characteristics. Well, sometimes they're negative. Sometimes you can play them as a positive, but some characteristics that make your character unique and interesting and just adds flavor to the game. Second thing is they give you an opportunity to earn bennies. So when you have a hindrance and you play that hindrance up and it causes some problems for you when you're playing that hindrance, your game master may give you a benny. Now, I think you should always remind your game master if you're playing your hindrances well and it's affecting your play in a negative way, kind of failing makes things more interesting. You should ask, say, hey, did I get a benny for playing my hindrances? It's well worth doing it. Last thing is, what a lot of people just like about hindrances is it gives you points for creation. You can get up to 4 points with 2 major hindrances that you can spend on other things, but that's not why you should do it. You should do it because it makes your character interesting. So there's 2 types of hindrances. There's the mechanical ones, and then there's ones that are more role-playing. The mechanical ones are usually there's a penalty to something you do, whatever it is. And there's a lot of hindrances that are kind of give you penalties. They might, like if you're mean, you might have a negative on your persuasion roll. There's some other ones that give you basically a mechanical disadvantage, which is the easiest hindrance. Now, you might be able to play that mechanical hindrance up and fail and do some stuff that makes it interesting role-playing so that your GM will still maybe give you a benny, like look at if you've got 1 arm, and yes, you get a negative to certain things, but you could also play it up in a role-playing setting, the way you fail or the way, having only 1 arm causes you grief, and maybe your game master will still give you a benny. So that would be kind of fun. So my suggestion, or what I like to do that gives my character flavor, is I don't want to go all mechanical just because that's easy. It also gives you a lot of negatives and it limits your role-playing opportunity. I like to maybe mix and match based on my character's concept. I always start with the character concept and then try to figure out the hindrances that map to what makes that character quirky or interesting. Some of my friends, they just take the points, create the character, and at the end of character creation, when they get everything done, they go, oh, yeah, maybe this is the concept I'll use. Both are fine. You can do both. It's okay. When I'm creating or taking hindrances, I also avoid making them kind of dump hindrances. There's some game systems where you can get hindrances that don't really have any impact, and therefore you get points for them, but it doesn't mean anything. I really recommend you don't do that. Make it interesting. So, for example, sometimes people might pick heroic, and heroic says, this noble soul never says no to a person in need. She doesn't have to be happy about it, but she always comes to the rescue of those that she feels can't help themselves. That's awesome. That's an awesome thing. But a lot of people might take heroic just because, oh yeah, I'm an adventurer, I'm going to be heroic anyway, and so this is not going to impact me. But you forget that you need to lean into this, and any poor soul who's got a sob story, you might want to help out without compensation, without anything, you getting anything out of it other than just helping. And that might pull the party into things that they didn't want to do because they wanted to go get, some cash for whatever. Like let's say a cyberpunk game and you're all net runner, or you're all runners making money, going against the corporations. But here's this sob story from the project saying, hey, I need some help doing X, Y, and Z. And now your player character says, hey, I'm going to help out. I don't need the money. I'm not going to care about the money because that's the right thing to do. So don't dump. Don't try to dump into them, because that's not the way to get a Benny. That's not the way to really make your character interesting. So what are some of my favorites? So there's a couple that I really like that I find kind of unique. Most of the hindrances are kind of cool, but here's one that, and so people really like things like impulsive or cautious, or, things like that. They think that's kind of fun. I like Quirk. It's a minor one, so doesn't add a lot to, getting points or whatever, but it says this individual has a minor foible that is usually humorous, but can occasionally cause him real trouble. So I like that. So I like, because having a quirk in my character that, may make somebody upset at some point, and then they'll maybe react negative to me. It causes problems for the party because maybe, my quirk is to make inappropriate jokes at the wrong time. And you make that wrong joke and the wrong guy in a bar, and he takes it the wrong way. And suddenly we got a bar fight in the game. The players have to, get out of there, rescue each other, what have you. So one of my favorites that I had is I played a robot, one of those utility robots in a Fallout game that somebody had. And my robot had originally been a lab technician back in the day. And so it was very aligned with its university that it worked at. And so it was always talking about their football team and rah-rah. And it kind of wanted to always bring that up and in conversation, and the players would try to be persuading somebody, and he'd be like, yay, our team's the best team, and stuff like that. And he'd always want to be human. So he'd try to do human type things like, I'm going to celebrate, when we do great, our team did great. And he would use his laser, or not his laser, but his torch in the air. And he once caught a building on fire and caused a lot of problems for the players. So that was a lot of fun. Another one that's kind of neat, if you are willing to really play something tough, is Phobia. And phobias are overwhelming and irrational fears that plague the hero's psyche. So for a minor one, it subtracts one from all your trait rolls when you're in the present of your phobia, and -2 for a major. So that can be super fun, right? It's a mechanical one, but it also has that role-playing element that I talked about. So you can role-play those phobias, show how it's going to negatively impact the party overall. I had players in a game where they had a phobia of, due to a fear check, it created a phobia of the dark, being caught in the dark. And so they were in a dark place. All the other players were in there, kind of a dungeon type thing. And they ran out of the dungeon, took the horses, and skedaddled while everyone else was still in this dungeon. And when they came out, the horses were gone. Those other players had just run off. And so it caused strife in the party, and it caused a lot of interesting role-playing opportunities later. Definitely gave them a Benny for that one. So make it really interesting. Make the phobia something that you might run into on occasion, versus, I'm in a desert, more of a desert, Wild West kind of thing. And so my phobia is water. So now it's a throwaway. I don't have to worry about water too often. Well, maybe lean into it. Maybe your phobia is kind of horse, or, you can't be around large horses because they scare you. And so you're always riding on a pony, or you have to ride on a mule, and it causes all sorts of interesting things. So phobia can be super, super fun. Other thing is, don't be cardboard cutout, right? A lot of the hindrances, it'd be very easy to play them kind of straightforward, always the same. So like mean. This curmudgeon is ill-tempered and disagreeable. He has trouble doing anything kind for anyone else, must be paid for his troubles, and doesn't accept awards or favors graciously. Yes, try to say that. Cool, but if you're always, literally every interaction you have, you're being a jerk or an asshole, that's not fun for anyone. Yes, it gets you in trouble. Yes, maybe you could get a Benny for that, but don't be a cardboard cutout. Even mean people aren't always just jerks to everybody. So be careful. Don't just make it a caricature of this hindrance and you're kind of a one-trick pony. Same thing for like curious. It says it killed a cat and it might kill a warrior as well. Curious characters have to check out everything and always want to know what's behind a potential mystery or secret. That doesn't mean that every time you see a door in a dungeon, you're going to go open it before anyone else has a chance to check for traps or listen to it. It doesn't mean that you're going to take this tome that is evil and wisping and you're going to read it because you're curious. You still can have common sense. Might mean that you want to take this tome and get it to a proper scholar, and you're not going to stop until you get a chance to find out what's in it with the proper scholar, the proper anti-magic, and that's now a quest or something that drives the party and is worthwhile. Same thing for things like Ruthless. That one, you're always, as a major hindrance, you're always harming anyone who gets in your way. Harm can be multiple things. It doesn't mean you just kill everybody who's a problem to you. Arrogant, same thing. That's a major one. So you're always showing off. You're always maybe taking on the best of the best. That might mean in the combat, you're always going after the big bad because you feel you're the best person to do that. And that's fine. And that's cool. But it doesn't always mean that you have to, well, maybe it does. Maybe that one is one where you should always be going against and causing trouble. I stand corrected. And so hindrances can be really kind of fun. Again, if they put you in a negative situation, you get a benny for it. Remind your game master, I'm terrible. I always forget to give folks bennies for their hindrances, and sometimes they have to go wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, I just did something against my hindrance. And so sometimes, they just have to remind me, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to work with your GM on, how your character concept might manifest itself. Maybe there's not a hindrance there in the book that matches what you're trying to do, and so you'll maybe have to create one, which is fine. But there's so many hindrances, and that you can skin them different ways. And so I'm thinking there's not a ton that aren't there. Settings in Savage Worlds often add new hindrances that are very particular to them, like a cyberpunk setting might add a hindrance where you can't use cyberware, or you're technophobe or something along those lines. But that's very specific to the setting. But that's kind of cool. Final thing on the GM side too is if you got a hindrance that you're going to take that you think is going to be just totally detrimental to the party, always causing problems, makes you incompatible with the party, like Ruthless, for example, in a party of do-gooders and people who are always giving somebody a second chance, and you're like, nope, this person did bad, going to take them out right now, that's it, just, and it's like, okay, maybe that's not one you're going to want to have, and you should work with your game master on it. So anyway, there's some thoughts, just some interesting things I was thinking about with hindrances. It kind of came up when I was thinking about my character, the robot, and I went, that's so much fun. Maybe I should talk a little bit about it. So anyway, we'll catch you guys next time. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. Would love your support, love comments. Tell me about the hindrances you like and why you use them and what makes them interesting and the role play opportunities and all that good stuff in the comments. I'd like to read them, and we all learn together that way. So once again, I'm Carl with Tabletop Tango. Thank you much. We'll catch you later.